This whole episode might be useless.
A couple of spoonfuls of instant coffee.
Things, doodads.
Obviously, you're right. It's a cup. Spoon. Noose.
Descaler and cleaner.
Hand and brush method. Purchase pellets. Rice is something that, if you don't want to pay for the product,
Tear apart the grinder and clean it.
That's my favorite.
Welcome to
Bean Stuff.
We are going to go through some of the coffee equipment, coffee pieces, things around coffee that we use, that we enjoy and think that might be helpful for somebody else out there.
It's something that we use. It may be not useful to others. I don't know.
This whole episode might be useless.
I guess I'm not saying that.
This is our list of what we couldn't do without. So when things first started out, Dad, what was it? What all did you need?
Good question, Reed. It's interesting. It was pretty basic. And I would need a jug of water, kettle in the US, a couple of spoonfuls of instant coffee. Yes, instant coffee. We used to call it, after my sister, Judith Coffee.
Ooh.
It was a delightful thing, though. It was
a good thing.
We really enjoyed it.
It's not yeah.
And some regular milk, or half and half perhaps in the States. And that would be our equipment. That would be our cup of coffee. And we would go, yes, this is good.
This is good. And, you know, it's funny now that's changed a lot. We've got a lot more equipment. We've got a lot more pieces and things and doodads and
you go
doohickeys.
You go into a cafe in those days and it was decaf or caffeinated, basically. And that was it. But as you say, do you say the word doohickeys?
Doohickey.
Doohickey. You've got espresso machines that you can have at a shop. You can have one at home.
Right.
You can have a pour over, a cold brew. You can have a cafe latte, cafe mocha, cafe macchiato. It just goes on.
Goes on. And
that's just the type of coffee. Then you can have all the different equipment that you can use at home or at a shop to say, I can make this a better tasting coffee.
Right, it's amazing how much there is. You know, you had given a good analogy to us before the show, which was it's kind of like your Model T, like your Ford Model T versus like the Ford Mustang today. You know, there's a lot more features and stuff on the new Mustang as compared to the Model T.
And that's an interesting one because I still talk to people today and say, actually, Paul, I appreciate all your passion. I appreciate all that, but I actually just want a Ford T. Thank you.
And there are some times with a Ford Model T is a good thing.
It's simple. It's easy. It's reliable.
So one of the first things that we wanted to start with was a cup. Now, cups, I think, have they're a big player in our coffee lives.
Yes. I'm going to talk about cups a little further down too, but you're right. For me, I thought about it. For me, what are the two things I couldn't do without? And obviously, you're right. It's a cup.
A cup. And it does help to hold the liquid.
It does. But then it gets sort of complicated because, am I having an espresso or a flat white?
Right.
And those are different size cups. Or you can have an espresso in a flat size, white size cup. And then I would not want to put it in a cup I use for a tea, which I like as well. So suddenly you've got
those are two different things.
So cups becomes quite important. And to hold your special cup, the one that you've had great memories from, of drinking great coffee and great conversation. Yeah. That's a special cup. I've got a few of those.
Those are special ones. And then some of the other tools that you might have would be like an electric jug.
That's true. I didn't give my second one, though. And that was the other thing was my favorite spoon.
Ooh.
I know in a spoon you're putting sugar in. No, not to put sugar in.
Yeah.
But this is now I've moved on in the last 20 years is cupping and all those sorts of things.
Oh, like your favorite cupping spoon.
Exactly. There are a lot of cupping spoons out there. I didn't know that you can, but the stainless steel one, nice.
So those would be your two go-to, like those are your things. Yeah. A good cup and a good cupping spoon.
It's funny when I go away sometimes, I take those two things with me. Partly because the cupping spoon, because I'm going to a conference on coffee, we're going to cup coffee. I want to use my own spoon because you get familiar with it. It's just the same taste, consistency. That makes sense.
Makes a big difference.
And in my hotel room, it feels like I'm home because I've got my cup.
Yeah, well, exactly. And some of the other tools, those are the ones that you personally feel like those are the big ones, the big two. Yeah. But some of the other things that we use often, very frequently, would be an electric jug, as opposed to like a stovetop kettle.
That was a cultural thing for me coming to the States. That everyone would, and they still do a lot, is they put water into their kettle and it goes on the stove, and it seems to take forever to boil. And I was used to coming from a culture it'd have a jug of water, an electric jug that you push the button and you walk away and you come back and it's
And
boiled.
it's boiled, yeah.
It's just like done.
Well, and I think to further that, there are now even electric kettles. You can have a preset temperature.
Yep,
You can
it's wonderful.
do a lot of different. There's like electric jugs that have the right, spouts for pouring and all sorts of different things. So there's a lot of innovation.
There
in
is.
them.
So you can take that electric jug, and if all you're going to do is get an electric jug or electric kettle, you've done well. But as you say, you can go the next step and get the noose,
The
the gooseneck, and it pours in a precise way. It's really nice, and it keeps your temperature. You can set it. I have a friend who has one that sets, and it just keeps it at 200 degrees, whatever,
Right.
Fahrenheit now, almost boiling.
Yeah.
And you come back later and it's still doing it. I'm not sure what the energy bill's doing, but whatever.
Right. Well, and the other thing we've got here, which doesn't sound, it's not as sexy as some of the other things here,
No.
but descaler and cleaner. Number one, descaler sounds disgusting.
Yes.
I don't want any scales near my
And when
coffee.
do you want to clean? I mean, come on.
And cleaning doesn't sound as fun. But what are you talking about when you say a descaler and cleaner?
I was thinking about these things that I couldn't do without, and I mean, you can, but I was thinking, if my grinder, for instance, or my espresso machine gets dirty,
Right.
and I don't clean it and I don't descale it, descaling is really taking the calcium that gets caked up on the pipes inside the
espresso machine.
inside the espresso machine, or you get all this from grinding coffee, you get all this oil and stuff that starts imparting its own flavor to the coffee. Suddenly, your coffee that you're enjoying suddenly doesn't taste as good. Why? Just because you haven't cleaned it.
I would think of it like if you never clean the plates you eat off,
Yes.
it's eventually or quickly going to become something that is a detractor from what you're eating.
Some may try and put it away and say, "Oh no, it gives a maturity to the taste. It just makes it deeper and whatever." No. It's just, unfortunately, it's a little lazy. But there's.
Yeah.
I've thought about how I've gone about it, and I've gone through the hand and brush method, which
So
is
this
sort
is
of
for the grinder there.
for the grinder. I'm thinking now, yes, where it's a light. It's just the easiest way. You just sort of quickly sort of get the brush out and see what you can see. You flick that off.
Right.
Then you can move to the vacuum and sort of suck some of that up. And that cleans it, sort of, but doesn't get down to the guts of the grinder. There's more blades going on down there than you can see.
So what other things can you put in there to clean?
You can actually even purchase pellets, and they go in the grinder, not with your coffee,
Right, you don't want to drink it.
Which and you put it through, and it officially cleans the grinder as it goes through the burr grinders, whatever. It goes through that and cleans that. I haven't done a lot of that, but a lot of cafes use the pellets to do that.
You can also do rice. Is that correct?
Rice is something that if you don't want to pay for the product as such, you still have to pay for some rice, I'm sure. But yes, it is. But you've got to be careful with rice because it's much harder than the pellets, or
It can really stress the motor of the grinder.
Exactly. And it also can have the starch and the rice is going to gum up some of the stuff too if you're sort of using a lot of that. So some say use quick cook rice. I don't know. I've never done it. But that's what I was told.
Yeah, and the last way you can do it is obviously to tear apart the grinder and clean it.
That's my favorite.
I've seen you do it a couple times.
Oh, just a couple of times. I'd probably do it in the middle of the night. You don't even know.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see how far it comes apart and then how far it goes back to that it works again. Not that I don't trust what you can do.
No, you're right.
You're good at your abilities, but the grinder's also quite.
It's
far
quite
apart.
surprising to find the screws that they hide them. The bottom of the feet, often those rubber feet. You've got to pull the rubber foot out to get to the screw to undo it. It's like, I never knew that.
Little secret tip there.
Little secret tip.
So my question is on the next pieces, which is cupping spoons. What to you? For Paul Allen, what makes a good cupping spoon? Now, I would preface this with, and I might even put a link or like stitch in the video here, but there's ice cream tasters use golden spoons because gold has no taste.
You told me about that once. That's right.
So we might throw that in right here.
So in tasting, what we do is take a small amount right off the top. It doesn't take much. That's the warmest part right here. I'm going to invert the spoon. Cover all 9,000 taste bud. Aerate it. Warm it up. Driving up that top note, that cream, pure vanilla, sweeteners. That's a 10.
But for Paul Allen, what makes a great cupping spoon? What makes a spoon that you take with you even?
It's probably, again, it's a little motion attached to it. It's probably just...
Who gave it to you, potentially?
Exactly. I've got a Barista Caravan one that I use all the time. I like the stainless steel. I don't like too big because... I can be a bit messy and I can spill it because you got to put the spoon in, get a nice level amount of there. So for me, I do that because I know it's consistent every time, and you sweep it up.
Well, and for people who are listening and don't know what a cupping spoon is, it's more like a soup spoon than like a what you might eat your cereal with.
That's right. And with soup spoons, you can get different styles, different how the metal it's made out of, and they all do make a difference. But I got used to this one, and after 20 years. When I think about a coffee that I'm slurping now, it helps. I can take the spoon effect away because I'm so used to it. I don't think of that part anymore.
Right. So you're looking for a good weight, I guess, as well.
There's balance on your spoon. That's true. You can even get little holsters. I haven't got one, but you can put your spoon. You can put your spoon in like a gun. I don't know, whatever. But
that's how you know someone's gone.
Well, it is. But if you cup a lot of coffees, you've got a lot of things going on your hand. You've got your notes that you're trying to take notes of. You've got a cup, your spit cup you're going on. You've got a spoon. You don't have three hands, so it's quite handy just to put it in there.
Like a little pocket.
You could, but of course, if it could get a little messy because you've been slurping on that spoon. Anyway,
one of the other things that you use quite often,
I do,
and it's a good gadget. And this, I think, is getting more into the nerdy side of things, but is a Wemo switch. And I will start by saying this is not specific to coffee. Although that's how
I use the Wemo switch, and all it is an electronic switch that you plug in to your outlet to your plug,
and it connects via Wi-Fi.
Yep. And you connect it to your Wi-Fi, and actually, I do. I use this as you do. I use it every day.
Well, so it's the Wemo switch. It connects to your Wi-Fi. There's an app for the switch.
Yes.
But there's another application, which this kind of goes on into the weeds out of our podcast, but it's called IFTTT. So IFTTT.
That's right.
If this, then
never
that.
remember that.
Yeah, it's called If This Then That, and you can set up these little things, and you have one set up basically that says, when Paul Allen gets within this radius, and you have a little radius around the house.
It's like looking at a map, and you've got the circle, how far you want the radius to be.
And so it says, when Paul Allen gets within however large this radius is of the house, turn that Wemo switch on. And you, in all your infinite wisdom, have set it up so that, and you've tested it.
I've set it up so my espresso machine is plugged into that Wemo switch that says if my car drives into that area, it'll turn on whatever it's going to turn on.
But you've tested it, and you have set up the perimeter of that to be the perfect distance so that when your car enters that, by the time your car gets home...
I forgot I did that. That's right.
By the time your car gets home, the machine is at the perfect temperature and position to make coffee.
You don't want to come in and it's just turning on as you come in the door because you've got another 20 minutes before it's warmed up. Oh,
well, yeah, no. Maybe not 20 minutes.
No,
but
10 minutes. It's too
10
long.
minutes, but you've got it set up so that as soon as you walk in the door, you could literally walk over and make a coffee.
And aside to that, also, I didn't realize as I did that, and also I've got to do the opposite. So when I go out of that circle, that map circle, it will turn, if I haven't turned it off already, it will automatically turn the machine off.
Yeah.
Oh, that is just, to me, that's just wonderful. There's an aside to that my wife, she knows also when I'm coming home because she's in the kitchen or wherever she hears the machine come on and it's just filling up with water. And she's, oh, Paul's coming home.
He's 10 minutes away. This is something that I like to use quite a bit, but is a permanent filter, I guess you might call it, but a metal filter for the AeroPress.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
We've got two different ones. We've got the Able Brewing one, and then we've also got the Kohi. And I like the Kohi. It's like a metal fabric thing, so it's a little bit more. It doesn't bend as easily. It's more rugged, maybe is the right word. But it does a really good job of getting all the fines out of your AeroPress. But it's also, you can just use it and use it and use it and
I like that part. The same with the Able. It's reusable, and I like that very much with it.
And those are both really good filters. But the one thing that I was worried about when I started using it is that it would actually taint the flavor. But I don't find that it does. No, and good. I'll put links to both of those two in the description.
When I was looking at this, preparing for this, I found another one. It's called the Aero. Well, what's it called? The Fellow Prismo, which is like you were saying with the Able and the Kohi, it's a round thing, but it's sort of different, and it sort of puts all the coffee through the middle, and it makes it more like I haven't tasted one as an espresso, and the way it comes out is just like that. And I thought, wow, I'm surprised what you can do with the AeroPress. There's an AeroPress Mark II out now too, I believe. They've changed a few things. You can look that up, but
they've tweaked it.
They've tweaked it.
And the other thing that you use very often is a scale. You use it for, you have a scale built into your grinder, which is one thing, and that weighs the amount of grounds in your coffee.
That is really nerdy, and I do love that. It's a little expensive to start with, but to put your portafilter or your coffee filter in, and you can walk away because it just does, and it pours out exact weight you want.
Right, and that's very nice. And who makes that grinder?
Baritza.
Baritza, and that's a great grinder. They have other models too, and other good grinders that don't have scales and all the things like that. But that is a really good grinder. But you also have a scale for the shots. That's
right. And as I was thinking about this is a piece of equipment I can use every day and find it very useful. Because it's very accurate, times my shots and weighs them in grams as such, but at the same time it does both, so you can see how long your shot's going, how many grams you've got, and then and you can do all sorts of ways that it's going to record that. It's quite amazing, but it has an app with it as well, so you can actually look on your phone and you can set it going on your phone, and you can share it with people on the phone.
Wow.
It's a pretty, what do you call that, not complicated, but powerful tool.
It's a very powerful tool. There's a lot built in that, and that's the Akai scale.
That's right. I didn't say that. It's right. It is, and I like that. We've got one at work, the Nokia. That one's not as powerful. It's accurate, which is great. And the scale needs to be, you don't want to scale the old ones we used to have weighing it. You don't know if it really was 30 grams or if it was 40 grams. You want to
make sure it's accurate, make sure it's doing its job.
And what the plus and minus of the scale is, so it can be 1 gram within, half a gram. That's probably not accurate enough. You want it to be really accurate, and how fast it gets to that shot too. Because if it says 10 grams and then 10 seconds later, or 14 grams, by that time you've probably got 40 grams in your cup. But anyway.
Right. And then there's also the Hario scale. We don't use that one, but that's similar to
that's what I was saying, at Caravan
scale.
Yeah, it is. It's Akai. They have a lot of technical stuff and apps that go with their scales. Hario might now too. I don't know.
One of the other most important things is a thermometer. And I remember you've gone through iterations of this, because you had an analog thermometer to begin with.
I did, and then I went to
you had the one with the Lego brick on it.
I forgot it. As you said that, I was thinking
it was like a digital thermometer that there was you can think of it like there was an attachment on the milk pitcher that had the negative side of, or like the female side of the Lego brick. And then the digital scale went and had the male side of the Lego brick, clicked into that, and it would sit on the little arm, and
depending on the size of your jug, you would have more Lego to make it higher or lower, so it would fit into the milk pitcher. It was quite a good machine.
It was quite good, and currently you have another digital one that sits with a little little paper clip kind of thing on the side.
Yeah, that's my own thing. Ingenuity. I've done on the ingenuity. There's a paper clip on the side that I've put the thermometer through for the milk, and I mainly use that when I'm making espressos and flat white. So there's a thing out there. Probably good baristas can touch it and feel how hot their milk is. I don't know, perhaps I'm just getting a little older, but my hands are not so sensitive in that way, or perhaps they're more sensitive. I don't know, but I like to know it's between whatever degrees that I know I'm going to taste it without burning the milk. So that becomes a fairly important tool that I use every day, and I want it to be accurate, and the digital part is helpful to that. And there's you can buy a lot of the digital ones. There is analog again, they just have a little more room to sort of error as such as they looking at what the actual temperature is.
Yeah, and then we kind of hinted on this a little bit, but cups are very important.
They really are. You don't think of them because you use them all the time.
Right. But you don't want a cup that's too large for a flat white.
Yep.
You want something that feels good. You want something that you like. I like going to Goodwill and looking at the deals on mugs and buying mugs. I buy too many mugs. But there's something about the emotions, and you had said even at Sensory Summit, they mentioned the color of the mug is important.
Exactly. I was really surprised that at Sensory Summit we looked at the color and the shape, and that made a huge difference on just the feeling you had of the exact same coffee. It was weird. A red one was really great here, but in another country, the green one was way better. They'd buy sell a lot more in the shape of the teardrop or the, it was amazing how that cup had a real bearing on whether you like the coffee or not.
And that might be something interesting at coffee shops to see what different types of coffee cups they have. I know I've walked into coffee shops with you and you've purchased cups from the coffee shop.
Yes, I have. It's true. I forgot I have, which is again an emotional thing. There used to be a place where we lived between Palmerston North and Wellington. We'd stop there, and I love their coffee, and I must therefore love their cup. And I asked the lady once, I said, as we finished our, and we were about to go, I said, would I be able to buy some cups? And she looked at me like no one ever asked her that question before. She goes to her manager out the back there, and they come, yeah, we'll sell that for this price. And the lady just looked at me and said, I'm sorry, I would have just given it to you for free. But it was worth it. I paid for it. And I even here now back in the States, I still have those same cups.
Another thing that's helpful, maybe not so much at home, more at the cupping table, but is apps that you use for taking notes while you're cupping. What apps do you use?
It's a good question. You don't tend to think of it, but you do think of it a year or two later when you say, I can't remember what that coffee tasted like.
Right.
Or that was my favorite coffee, but what was my favorite coffee? I can't remember. And you can go the real detailed, like the Specialty Coffee Association, their way. And when I started, it was the Cupping Lab was the app you'd get. Today I use one called Catador. And there's a few of them out there. But it's helpful just to have a notes of what you tasted, and you've got it for ever as such. You can go back and say, okay, I don't want to get that one again. Or you can go more consumer, more just general ones. I've used one recently called the Angel's Cup. There's a lot of them out there. You just go onto your Apple or to Google, and you will find on the store there's a lot of them out there.
Right.
Which is going back to the Kaya one of that scale. It has an app that I use quite often, and you can tell it that I'm using a different pour over. I'm using the cone. I'm using the Chemex, and it will adjust it, and it will remind you, oh, this is how much coffee you put it in last time. Okay, we'll do that again.
Yeah, and I want to jump down to books.
Yeah. Good.
I think that there's a lot of books that we even use on this podcast.
That's right.
What books, Dad, do you find have been really helpful in your coffee journey, but even in today?
It'll be interesting, folks writing in or talking to us in terms of what books they have found helpful. And there's a lot more than there used to be, let me say that. First, the progression I've used, and it may not be the right progression, but... And the first two I use, if people ask me, what's a good book? I've got this friend who's a really nerdy coffee guy. What book would I get them? I would say one of these two. And one is called Coffee Obsession. And we just say we've used it for podcasts by Annette Moldveer. It's a DK book, if you know about DK. We used to use it when growing up with education type books. It's only, I looked on it yesterday, it was just $18 on Amazon.
And that's a very all-inclusive book. It's got lots in there.
You'll have more in there than you will. How to make drinks, what drinks type they are, Sumatra, or whatever country, what they're doing as such. It's a good all-round book just to buy somewhere. But to have yourself, you will be more than happy.
Right.
There's another one called The World Atlas of Coffee. It's similar. It's got a slightly different way it goes about it by James Hoffman. It's about $24. Another good book. If you want to know more about coffee, you're getting interested, it's a good book. And I find even as someone who's more experienced in 20 years in the coffee industry, I find it still helpful. And I go, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then there's the Coffee Roaster's Companion by Scott Rail.
Yeah, there wasn't any books like this when I was starting coffee roasting, and it's become more popular now. And there's a few books starting to come out that are very good in the detail. You may not agree always with the detail, but it gives you some good starting blocks and further on to say,
somewhere
okay,
to kind of build from.
Yeah.
And then there's the Monk of Mocha.
Here we're getting to more, what do you call it? I was going to say biopsy, but it's not what I was thinking.
Not
biography.
Yeah.
And autobiographies. It's about the story of how Yemen and how that got coffee and how it's back in now. And by Dave Eggers, $12, quite cheap. In fact, Rachel and my wife and I, were walking along the street the other day, and there was a table that had free stuff from a garage sale, and on there was a set of discs of the Monk of Mocha, and so I took them and gave them to a friend. There's another one. This is a little more technical, but it's wide. It's a very powerful book called.
I would say you have a little bit of a bias towards this one.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to say that. That's true. The book.
Yeah, and I don't mean that to discredit the book at all. I think it's a very good book.
It's a thick, big book.
It's a little bit.
It's almost like a
expensive,
textbook almost.
but it's the Book of Roast, right?
Book, yeah, by Roast Magazine, and they've taken a lot of their articles from Roast Magazine that comes out every 2 months, and they've brought them together, and you can look at all sorts of topics, and you can go as deep as you like.
Some of those written by Paul Allen.
Oh, could be. If you want to know about the Linez Cafe, you go in there and you'll find all about it there.
And then the last one is Coffee Covered by Roast.
By Roast. And that's just a nice book to have on your table, and it's got lots of pictures, and it's very detailed in terms of, and very accurate in terms. I think that one's about $40 compared to the Book of Roast is about $125. But that's a big book. That's like a textbook. And books. How about doing this? Just subscribe someone or yourself to Roast Magazine, to Fresh Cup. There's a whole lot of magazines out there. I used to subscribe ones in New Zealand and enjoyed just looking through it, and it can be really enjoyable if you like coffee.
Definitely. And that's kind of a look at some of the stuff that we go through that we use all the time. Those kind of our go-tos. It's not necessarily all the latest gizmos and gadgets in the world of coffee, but those are the things that we can't live without.
That's right.